Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Hago, and I'm the Vice President of Beauty here at Fashion Snoops. Today, I'll be interviewing Yaquí Rodriguez. She's an energy healer, and she'll be speaking to our trend wonder. So Yaquí is a fourth-generation energy healer working primarily through the medium of vibration, which includes energy, sound, emotion, aromatherapy, water, crystals, plants. Through her rooted ancestry and connection with Mother Earth, she gives people a chance to slow down and connect back to their divine voice that is often neglected in the day-to-day responsibilities in an unforgettable journey back to self. Thank you, Yaquí, for joining us. I'm excited to hear all the wisdom and knowledge that you have.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and thank you to Fashion Snoops for having me.
Yes, of course. So let's get started. The first question is, this is a topic that has been previously a taboo, and now we're seeing it become a little bit more mainstream. Why do you think this is happening, and why now?
I think that, when you look at culture historically, like we go through different cycles. And it's interesting because you saw like the Renaissance of art, I don't know, hundreds of years ago. And I've always wondered, when will humanity kind of like reach that peak where we're like in a different type of renaissance? And I don't know what this renaissance is called, but I definitely think that there is an exploration beyond ourself that's happening right now. And people are looking to not only connect to themselves, but be able to connect to the world around them and the collective. So I feel that we're transitioning into a new space. And that's really where we are right now.
Yeah, I love that. And I know, in beauty, we had a whole beauty shift called Transformative experiences. And we're seeing that people are craving these kind of experiences. Can you speak a little bit to some of the treatments and experiences that are shaking up this alternative medicine?
Absolutely. So one of the, I would say, most popular that I'm seeing right now is the use of psychedelics. Psychedelics, there are a lot of different ones that are utilized, and many people think that it's new age, but in fact it's very ancient. These have been used by indigenous cultures for many, like, I want to say thousands of years. So you can look at mushrooms, which is found in Guatemala and Mexico as far back as 1000 BC. Ayahuasca, which is used in the Amazon by the indigenous tribes there to this day. Iboga from Africa. Cannabis is widely used and is something that was used in Hindu tradition, Rastafarian traditions for spiritual use. So I would say that those right now are the ones that people are really starting to explore a lot more.
And is it why do you think it's happening now? Because like you said, it has been around thousands of years, but it almost feels like, now it's like the trend to use CBD or traditional Chinese medicine. Like, what happened in between all that other time?
Well, I think that people moved away from those cultures a long time ago. As things changed in our world, so did the priorities. So you look at maybe more indigenous or tribal cultures in the past, even when you look at Europe, right? Prior to what existed there 2000 years ago, there were a lot of nomadic tribes, even in Europe, right? So people went from a more community-based kind of living to individual-based living. So in community-based living, these types of practices were used for healing. They were used for spiritual purposes. They were used for many other different purposes, but primarily those two. And as we evolved or changed as humans, the need to live in a collective space or in a communal space also changed. And we became a lot more just looking for, I guess, ourselves, right, instead of a community.
Do you think that will shift now with it being like, do you think we're going to enter, like, kind of like you mentioned in the beginning, like a new shift?
I see that happening. Like, I see, if you notice, even the way that we work, right? A lot of people went from having offices and working from home to now having more community-based spaces to work out of, right? So you see a lot of shared space going on. I've heard of shared living as well. So I'm seeing more of people acknowledging and realizing the importance of community
Mhm.
as a whole. So I feel that because people are becoming aware of the need of that, not only to progress forward as humans, right? We all need each other, but for themselves and their own evolution.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I know, it's definitely something we've been tracking, especially during COVID times where it almost like you can't have that connection or like you only have it online. So definitely seeing that after, hopefully when things get better, people wanting more of that connection. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
And I did want to speak to, as people are seeking transformative experiences, just to, you know, when we reach these levels of consciousness, because that's what you do when you decide to partake in these type of ceremonies, is you are basically entering a different field that is existing where you feel connected to everything, right? Where now it's not the idea of that we are collective and we are interconnected, but you actually get to experience that. So there's a level of that that is important, I guess, when we're looking for answers. And then now science has also kind of caught up. I always like to say that science has caught up with spirituality in the sense that it is showing how quickly the use of psychedelics can help with depression, stress, anxiety, and so many other things. So people, scientifically, it's actually being considered now to probably declassify psychedelics as a, class 1, class 2 drug, and utilize it for healing practices and therapy uses.
and how, I mean, personally, I've never done any of the psychedelics, but, I am in tune with like the spiritual world and all that. So I'm just wondering, like, I know everyone has a different experience, but I guess, like, what does it feel like? Or what do you go through? Like, how, like, what is this, I'm like, explain the transformative experience.
Well, I think everyone's experience is different, right? It's based on what are the things that they need for their growth. So, for me to say like this is going to be the classic experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's none of that. But what I will say is that in all the different experiences that I have had, I have always gotten many answers to many things, whether it's, clarity on my path was definitely one of them. So I can speak from personal experience, right? Clarity on my path was definitely one of them. You know, you get to see more of the shadow side of yourself as well. So you delve into your own subconscious. And our subconscious is not something that we have access to all the time, right? Through dream state, we can access some of that subconscious, but it's not like a clear cut answer, right? When we do medicine, one, I do want to say that when we engage with medicine or these plants, they are a spirit, right? They are an entity and they're a being. If you look at kind of the animistic cultures, they talk about that, where these plants actually have an energetic field. So you are kind of communing with this field. So I would say that everyone experiences that for sure, right? Because when you ingest this, you work with that. Like mushrooms, for example, is something that works with the inner child. So anyone that's looking for healing, from their inner child would definitely um, maybe want to look into mushrooms. Ayahuasca is a little bit different. That I would say it's a much deeper journey, and you get to see yourself really without any filter. And when you see yourself, then you can learn and grow from that experience. Um, yeah, there's so much like I can't even, it's something that you would have to experience to understand. And then you mentioned like about the bad trip. um I know that there's concerns for that, and I wouldn't say that I've experienced any bad trips myself, because it's also important to find practitioners that are integrity with the work, have been trained properly, hold a safe container, and really take these practices for what they are, spiritual experience, versus like let's go trip on something and have some fun, right? Because that is what this is.
Yeah, actually, that was going to be my next question of, you know, you are an energy healer. So how do you usually work with people? I know, you know, like I mentioned earlier, there are several kind of things that you do, but usually, you know, what is your, I guess, day to day, or how would you work with someone who's like looking to experience this or be healed?
You mean psychedelics in general,
Or
or
just, you know, in general with
energy
the
healing?
energy healing that you do. I know it encompasses a lot of things, but like, you know, like basically what would be like, if you're working with someone, then what would be the process of that?
Yeah, well, I would say to explain energy healing, right, for those of you that are not familiar with it. So we are familiar with our physical body, right? But then there is other energy bodies that we have that we don't see. And then all of them together is called the aura. So we have the emotional body, we have the mental body, um, and in these bodies, what happens is, if you'd like to think, I like to think of it like residue. Sometimes there's residue in these bodies. Some of them we are born into this lifetime with, right? Either karma from past lifetimes that we get to resolve in this lifetime. Some of them are ancestral, as well. So it could be like, for example, alcoholism is something, an example I like to use. Some families have cycles of alcoholism or certain types of abuse, and it's something that we continue to experience because it has to be healed. So you have those, and then you have the ones that you collect here, right? So the ones that you collect here, they kind of impact this energetic body. So if you are constantly, I don't know, speaking negatively to yourself, you know, that's going to create something in this energetic field. And what ends up happening is that um, this actually starts to, once it gets to a certain point, you start to feel it in your body as a sense of pain,
Mm.
right? And that pain, all it's trying to do is trying to tell you, hey, there's something wrong here in this area, or there's something that needs attention actually, right? Because again, we're like in the day to day, we're attending to the things that are important in our lives, work, you know, our partners, relationships, etc. So many times there are things that are stuck. Maybe you had an experience as a child that didn't get resolved, and they get stuck in the energetic field or in your body. So what I do is that I support people in moving those things out of the energetic body to then alleviate physical symptoms sometimes, emotional symptoms sometimes, mental symptoms as well. And the way I do that is, um, I guess you're asking for like a typical session.
Mm-hmm.
So a typical session with someone, now that we're in phase two, I'm starting to do in person, but I do them in person and online. So in person, someone would come in, either they would tell me specifically something that they want to work on, or maybe they're not aware, but they are just feeling really tired. You know, so it varies from person to person. So if they're not aware of the problem, then I would lay them down and I would check their energy. So through my hands, right? I would place my hands either on the body or right off the body, and I can kind of feel the vibrations, and the vibrations then give me certain information. So I can tell where there's an imbalance. Sometimes I can pinpoint specifically where the imbalance come from. Sometimes it doesn't, because this is something that you're doing together, right? I'm not doing this alone. So it also depends on where the person is and how open they are energetically, because they can think they're open, but we come in and they're very closed energetically. So then at that point, we would work with opening more of their energetic body. So what I do is I support in moving the energy out of the body.
And what senses do you see us like turning to connect with our inner world?
Um,
Like, are we tapping into others?
so what? I'm sorry.
I said, sorry, I think it broke up a little. I said, are we tapping into other senses
In the session, you mean, or like individually?
individually?
Okay, individually, I see the way that we're moving is that people are starting to become aware that they have access to different senses. that they're beyond the five senses that we already perceive. There is the opportunity, or there's another one that exists. So, we look at, like, for example, for me, I would say primarily I'm clairsentient, which means that I can sense things, right? There are people that have other ones that they can develop if they choose to.
How do you know, I guess, if you have another sense?
Well, I would say is that many people can go back into their childhoods and tap into maybe when they were a child that they spoke to ghosts, right? So that's one, that those are people who can see, right? Maybe, when they were a child, they were able to feel certain things. And then we grow up and someone tells us like, hey, ghosts aren't real. You're not feeling that. That's not true. And then they suppress those things. So I would say is go back into your childhood and notice if there were things that were a little bit, I'm going to say quote unquote abnormal that, you experienced. So that's the first. The second one, I would say, is just be in a state of play and tap into your subconscious mind, right? And the way that you tap into your subconscious mind is through meditation, right? You can do through breath work as well. So breath work is usually a little bit more rapid breathing than meditation. Through music and drumming can take you into trance states. So going into those definitely helps you. The other thing is you start with really trusting your intuition. So when you have that gut feeling that we oftentimes ignore, right? Starting with that and strengthening that. So not ignoring that or bypassing it, but actually listening to it. What does this have to say to me? What is this telling me? And then you do that more and more, and you start to notice that then you start perceiving more and more information.
I love that. I feel like I can speak about this for hours. I'm like, I want to learn more. That's great. So I guess, my last question will be, what's next for psychic growth and experiences? Where do you see all of this going?
Well, I see one is the use of sound is definitely becoming a lot more popular. So sound is a way to, again, tap into your subconscious. It also facilitates healing in your body, in your organs. It helps your body relax and everything else. As far as psychic abilities, sometimes I am like, are we really gonna get to the point where we're able to communicate telepathically? Like, is this possible in kind of like the real world? But I do see a lot more people embracing these gifts, which is sort of like a sense of freedom. Even for myself, because I was someone that had to suppress my gifts for a very long time. I didn't understand them. I didn't feel understood. So I never spoke about it until, my early 20s. Like, I had one friend that was kind of like into these type of things, and that's where I felt free and understood. And I feel that a lot more people that feel this way, because it's more widely accepted, it's not as weird anymore, are kind of just becoming free. So I see a lot more people in tune with their own truth, living from a space of intuition, where they use that as their guidance instead of the noise that exists outside in the world.
I love that. And I hope I can experience that in my lifetime, being able to communicate in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Yaquí. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for all your knowledge. Like I said, we could speak here forever, but, for anyone who wants to learn more, definitely follow Yaquí. You can follow her at Yaquí Rodriguez or at Wave of Healing. And then her website is waveofhealing.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Perfect. Great. Well, thank you again. And, hopefully I'll see you soon.
Thanks so much.